Among the many fun and entertaining segments we're going to have, we're also going to talk about PTSD and the issues associated with thoughts of suicide. These are very real issues, and if you feel like things are becoming too much, please reach out to a friend, a family member. If you're having thoughts of suicide, please call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273 talk. We want you guys safe and happy and healthy out there. We want you guys coming around for a long time. Appreciate your listening.
But when I saw you making these posts about awareness, I was like, this is something that needs to be said. This is something that needs to be put out. Talk to me a little bit about what you're trying to make people aware of and why you're linked to that in the first place.
For many years before I was even diagnosed with PTSD, people would shame it in a way, or depression and everything. It was it was not cool to have that. You were like thought of differently, talked about differently, and almost not accepted, and being made fun of or not accepted most of my life until I just stopped caring about that. It was like people are okay if they're depressed or if they're feeling something. That's okay. You don't have to be all rainbows and butterflies every single day, you know. And just because you have PTSD doesn't mean you can't be a good person. I know a lot of people who are supposedly nice people and go to church or help around the communities, and they're just not good people. And nothing against people who help around the communities or go to church. There's wonderful people all around the world. But just because you have PTSD or depression, anxiety, and a list of other things, issues, it doesn't mean that you're not a good person, or you can't be a friend to someone, you can't be there for someone, or, you know, and you can enjoy each other's company. So I wanted to let that be known.
The stereotypes seem to go both ways. You know, if you go to church, you're supposed to be a good person. And so, you know, if you yell at somebody in the parking lot, oh, you go to church, you know, then all of a sudden everybody that goes to church gets a bad rep, right? What we forget is that everybody is a person. You know, there are bad cops, there are good cops, there's bad politicians, there's good politicians, there's soldiers that have PTSD and it affects them every single day of their life. There's soldiers that have PTSD and it has absolutely no effect on them whatsoever, very little effect on them. Sometimes PTSD can make you angry, sometimes PTSD can make you fearful, it can give you anxiety.
I actually have a list.
I would love to hear your list. Let's do the list. The PTSD list.
Can you see that? This is a list of things.
I can't read it, but there's a lot of things there. Bring up this list, because the thing is that it is a stigma. You were a soldier, and I noticed this when I go to work, talk to friends, all this stuff. When I meet people and they find out I'm a retired soldier, one of the first things in their head is, "Oh, you must have PTSD." And
exactly,
you know, you must have PTSD, you must have anger issues, and I'm so sorry you have nightmares at night. And it's like, okay, I do have PTSD, but you know, I'm just because I have PTSD doesn't mean I have all these things. These are possible things I could have, and get to know me as a person. And that's one of the things I want, you know, to do. People to see with you right now is we've been having a conversation for about 10 minutes, and I haven't seen you crawl down on the floor or flash back to war or anything like that. You know, so how can you have PTSD, right? But I mean, some people actually do think this stuff, and you talk about the anxiety and the depression. You can still function with these things. People do it every day. So yeah, tell me about this list.
So these are symptoms, and PTSD is one all the way up to all. And even on this list, it doesn't name everything. So the symptoms are nightmares, guilt, intrusive memories, poor judgment, survivor's guilt, flashback, insomnia, anxiety, avoidance, startled response, loss of motivation, lack of feelings, poor self-esteem, negative self-image, hypervigilance, poor concentration, short-term memory loss, helplessness, depression, hopelessness, apathy, ulcers, arthritis, physical pains, mistrust, communication problems, stress, isolation, rage, irritability, frustration, and I'm sure there's more. And somebody else, please comment below and
Let
tell me what you're dealing with.
That's right. And if you have one of these, hit the like button. If you have more than one of these, hit the subscribe button. And then come back and
Absolutely.
watch those numbers if you actually do it, because so many of those things, so many of us have on a daily basis. It doesn't necessarily mean you have PTSD. And this is kind of the point I want to get to, is just because you have these things doesn't mean you have PTSD. And as
Mhm.
you started saying, just because you have PTSD doesn't mean you have these things. Certainly doesn't mean you have all of them. So find out if you are struggling with depression, anxiety, nightmares, any of those things that you just talked about. Please go talk to somebody and find out what it is, because you could have ADHD, you could have simple depression, you could have anxiety, you could be hungry. And just need a Snickers bar, but you might have PTSD. You don't have to be a combat vet to have PTSD. If you suffered any type of trauma, you could have PTSD from that, from car accidents to sexual abuse. So please reach out and
Yes,
get
absolutely.
help,
I
because there's
actually
nothing
want
wrong
to
with that.
I want to touch on that. I thought about having PTSD, but I was like, no, it's not me. I was actually in school. I was having trouble concentrating, which was one of the side effect type things.
Mhm.
And I went in to see the doctor at the VA, and I said, I need to help myself concentration. I'm struggling in class. I just can't focus. And I mean, I have like, feel like I'm having some anxiety, and I just want to see if I can get something for PTSD, or sorry, for ADHD.
Mhm.
And they said, okay, well, we'll put you through a series of tests. And it was like, okay, so, and what makes you think you have ADHD? Is it just concentration, lack thereof? And I'm struggling a lot, and I'm trying really hard while I'm watching other people pick it up in class. It takes me the entire weekend, and I get like 50% of what I really need. And so I want to see if I can get some pills or something to help me with my ADHD. And the report came out. They're like, we don't think you have ADHD. We think it's PTSD. And that's when I was like, what? Like, okay. So the more I dug, the more I found out about myself and about PTSD. And that's why it's really good to reach out and try to find some sort of help when it comes to this, because it's hidden a lot and you don't know it sometimes. And that's why we really have to get the word out. And I think that's why I started making posts, is because it was locked up and I didn't know about
Yeah, no, and I see a lot of stuff, and you do as well, because we do have so many military friends, and there's a lot of links through social media between you and your friends. But a lot of people may have seen the 22 challenge, where you do the 22 push-ups, 22 days, things like that. Um, and that has more to do with suicide awareness, but that's also a side effect, if you will, of PTSD, because people just don't understand what's going on with them, and they struggle with it so much that suicide gets contemplated. To get personally again, did those thoughts ever creep in at all?
it. Oh, absolutely. On multiple occasions, I had, you know, thoughts of hurting myself. It wasn't even just like I want to cut myself. It was beyond that. It was like, remove me from this situation and from
Hmm.
everybody else's situation. Multiple times throughout the years, I've struggled with it. Easily since deployment, it's been a struggle with that. Like I try to avoid it, but yeah, you're fine, everything's fine. But I started to face it. I was like, okay, why do you think this way? What's the reasoning? Why do you have a plan now? Like, what is pushing you to have a plan to take your own life, type thing?
Hmm.
And it started to really get to me. So I wanted to investigate further a couple of years back. That's what I started doing. And especially after I found out, oh, it's PTSD. Okay, why? And they're like, okay, well, take this pill, take this pill, take this pill. And, years later of trying all these pills, I'm trying to find this right chemical balance. And PTSD is that, where your brain is not your average functioning person. You can be sad and not have PTSD. everybody gets sad, everybody gets happy. But when
Hmm.
your brain is chemically imbalanced, out of balance, whacked out, whatever, you don't think right, you don't act right, you overreact, you underreact, you don't feel, you overfeel. And that's a lot of what it tends to be. And they're like, well, take this pill, see if it'll get your brain balanced to where you can kind of feel like a functioning adult. And still working on that. I'm probably 20 different medications in.
Hmm.
But
I've seen your
it's,
stack.
yeah, that stack
Yeah.
is it's pretty amazing. But what are you going to do? Like, you just got to find the chemical balance, and maybe one day it'll happen, or maybe I'll just struggle for life. I don't know. But the point is to not give up. Is just, it's not every path is the same for everybody. Everybody is different.
And I think that's it right there. You asked the question, what are you going to do? Don't give up. Don't stop trying. Get help. Seek help. Keep trying to better yourself. This is an ongoing battle. It's not going to change overnight. You mentioned, it's been years. How many years has it been for you so far?
I would say about 12.
12 years. 12 years, and you're still dealing with this. So if you're dealing with any of these problems, don't feel like it's too late. It's not. Please seek out the resources. There's hotlines. We'll put some up. We'll put some in the comment. Um,
There's a lot
and
of
and
resources out there, and
so many resources.
there should be double. There should be. I mean, I feel like we should get therapists inside of schools more so. I mean, double it across the board because, when mine started, I was an adult. I was older. I was my mid 20s. But you can get this as a child where you're mistreated,
Hmm.
sexually abused. And I'm an adult and I wanted to hide it. What about a scared child who doesn't have anybody to turn to, and the ones that are abusing them are an aunt, an uncle, or their own parents, grandparents, or some stranger down the street? They're too scared to say anything. And even me, I was like, I'll be fine, toughen up, you're in the army, and
Hmm.
a child has a completely different mindset, and the adolescence of them is, so much more difficult to break through. So I think that we need more, just double every job across the board for this and make it more reachable, because I think that it won't happen overnight, probably not even in our lifetime. But I think if more people had help earlier in life, it would help across the board as they're adults, and hopefully change some stats that are more negative in the adult world.
Yeah, what we need is more advocates like yourself. People are willing to speak up and try to make a change. If you could send one message on this subject, what would it be?
There isn't one.
Hmm.
There's hundreds. I mean, when it comes to dealing with stuff like this, it's no one avenue, one answer. One day is different from the next. I mean, get help is the start. If I were to say one thing, put me on the spot with that, just reach out
Sure.
and get help. And you don't have to call it help. It just, hey, I want to learn more about this and learn more about myself. And you're gonna open up a bag of worms that you're like, you knew nothing about. People who like say killing yourself is selfish. It's a chemical imbalance. You don't, you're out of control in a sense of, you rather be dead than ruin someone's evening. You rather hurt yourself, take yourself away from your family and your friends, even if you have a ton of them, because you're chemically imbalanced. Chester Bennington did that. The night before, he's eating jelly beans with his family and laughing and having a good time. He's on his high. You know, and high
Hmm.
meaning PTSD isn't depression low down at the bottom. And I found this out recently, that you can be up here having a great time and kill yourself the next day. The balance is out. Your brain is not functioning. You can say, oh, you're selfish because you killed yourself, and I don't, you whatever. It doesn't work that way. When someone kills themselves, it's because they think there's no way out. The chemical imbalance is wrong, and it's like the thing to do. It's like, well, I guess I got to get up for work today because I got to pay the bills. You want to take your life because that's what you want to do. Chester Bennington did it a day after he had a wonderful time with his family. And I learned about this a couple of months ago. I was working overtime at work, and I had stopped taking a pill because I ran out and the VA couldn't get me any. So I just stopped taking the pills. And I was like, you know what? I'm okay. Everything's fine. I've had a good couple of days. I feel great. I'm motivated. I'm loud. I'm energetic. I've already been at work for 4 or 5 hours. People start rolling in. And a good friend of mine was like, why are you being so loud? It was a joke, lightheartedness, and I was like, immediately shut down. I mean, I was up here and I shut down. I wanted to leave for the rest of the day. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was no longer loud that day. I wanted to kill myself. That's the thoughts that came through my mind.
Wow.
And I sat there and I was like, why are you thinking this? Why are you hurting so badly that you want to kill yourself? Because some really good friend of yours made a light joke, which you were doing technically.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrecked myself. I tore myself up and I didn't understand. And I just wanted to figure out why. And of course, I talked to my wife, who has studied all this stuff, and she told me,
Mm-hmm.
you're not at the bottom.
Your wife has a master's degree in psychology, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And she told me, it's like, you're up here. That doesn't mean you're okay. It could mean you're okay, but it doesn't mean you're okay. And I found that out really quick, and I was blown away. And that was one of the posts you saw, is why I posted it. Is because I was up here, I was happy, energetic, and within 10 seconds, I wanted to kill myself, leave work, and never talk to people again, all for something simple. And that's when I realized, even more so, that pills or no pills or happiness or sadness, it's a tricky beast. And there's no telling what it is at any time, any given day. And that's what I have to get out there to the people, because people don't know that. People who have no experience in it don't know. And I didn't know, and I've had years experience in it, and I'm still learning things to this day.
Yeah, no, and that's such an important message. Thank you, Mike, for sharing that. I think the big takeaway here is, guys, if you're having any of these issues, if you're feeling any of these things, you are not alone. You are not the only one. If help is too much of a stigma for you, then just go get hope. Go talk to somebody and get some hope. That's definitely a message that I'm hearing from Michael. It's a message I've heard from a lot of other people that share what he's been going through. Is just a uncontrollable loss of hope sometimes. So if you lost hope, go talk to somebody, go find some hope, and hopefully that will eventually help you out. Again, thank you, Michael, for sharing that part of your life.
Thanks again, as always, for stopping by to Y-TiSTiCS. Don't forget to check out the Facebook page, the YouTube. We're on Twitter, even some TikToks out there. And remember, please, very seriously, if you feel like things are getting overwhelming or you're having thoughts of suicide, please call 800-275-TALK. That's 8255. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll see you again next week on Y-TiSTiCS. I mean, hey, why not?